Terrell Owens, often referred to as T.O., is one of the most polarizing and electrifying figures in NFL history. Known for his incredible athleticism, brash personality, and unforgettable touchdown celebrations, Owens carved out a Hall of Fame career that was as dramatic off the field as it was dominant on it. But to understand Terrell Owens, you have to start at the very beginning. Born on December 7, 1973, in Alexander City, Alabama, Owens grew up in a small town with a big dream. Raised primarily by his mother and grandmother, Owens came from humble beginnings. His early life was marked by a sense of isolation. He was a shy, reserved kid who often kept to himself. He didn't even meet his biological father until he was around 11 years old. And in a twist that could only happen in a small southern town, it turned out his father lived just across the street. Sports were an escape for Owens, but interestingly, football wasn't his first love. In high school at Benjamin Russell High, he played basketball, baseball, and ran track. He only began playing football in his junior year, and even then, he didn't start right away. But his athletic potential was evident, and it caught the attention of scouts despite his limited experience. He eventually accepted a scholarship to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, a small school that didn't garner much national attention. At UTC, Owens played basketball and ran track, but it was on the football field where he began to shine. He became a starter during his sophomore year and quickly made a name for himself as a reliable wide receiver with excellent hands and deceptive speed. Though his college stats weren't eye-popping, his raw talent was undeniable. He even had a memorable moment when he caught a touchdown in a 1995 game against Alabama, a game that put him on the radar of NFL scouts. His performance at the NFL Combine wasn't extraordinary, but his potential was clear enough for the San Francisco 49ers to take a chance on him in the third round of the 1996 NFL Draft, selecting him with the 89th overall pick. The 49ers were already a storied franchise, and at the time, they still had Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver in NFL history, on the roster. Owens began his NFL career in the shadow of Rice, but that shadow wouldn't last long. Under the mentorship of Rice and the leadership of quarterback Steve Young, Owens began to grow into his role. His rookie season wasn't spectacular, but by his second year, he was beginning to show flashes of brilliance. In 1998, when Rice was sidelined with an injury, Owens took center stage, finishing the season with 1,097 yards and 14 touchdowns. It was clear then that Owens was not only a talented receiver, he was a superstar in the making. Over the next several seasons, Owens developed into one of the most dangerous wideouts in the game. His combination of size, standing 6'3" and weighing 220 pounds, speed, and strength made him nearly impossible to defend one-on-one. His route running improved, and his ability to create separation made him a quarterback's dream. But it wasn't just his physical tools that made him a force. Owens had a burning competitive fire that few could match. He wanted to win, and he wanted the ball in crucial moments. This drive, however, sometimes clashed with teammates and coaches. Owens was never one to hold back his feelings, and his outspoken nature led to tensions within the locker room. Still, his on-field production was undeniable. One of his most iconic moments came in the 1998 NFC Wild Card game against the Green Bay Packers. Owens had a tough game, struggling with multiple drops. But with seconds left in the game, quarterback Steve Young fired a pass between defenders, and Owens made the game-winning catch in the end zone, holding onto the ball despite a brutal hit. Tears streamed down his face as he celebrated, proof that football meant everything to him. The 2000 season marked a major leap for Owens. He finished the year with 1,451 yards and 13 touchdowns. But it was also the year he began to make headlines for his flamboyant celebrations and growing feud with coaches and players. In a game against the Dallas Cowboys, Owens famously ran to the star logo at midfield after scoring a touchdown, a celebration that led to a physical altercation with Cowboys safety George Teague. That moment captured everything that made Owens both loved and hated. He was bold, unapologetic, and thrilling to watch. The following years saw continued dominance from Owens. He recorded over 1,000 yards receiving in 5 straight seasons and became the focal point of the 49ers offense. But by 2003, tensions in San Francisco had boiled over. Owens' relationship with head coach Steve Mariucci had deteriorated, and there were internal disputes about his contract. The 49ers eventually traded him in a controversial deal involving the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles. After some legal wrangling, the trade was voided, and Owens ended up with the Eagles, pairing with quarterback Donovan McNabb to form one of the most dynamic duos in the NFL. The 2004 season with Philadelphia was one of the most exciting of Owens' career. He brought swagger and energy to a team hungry for a Super Bowl appearance. In just 14 games before suffering a broken leg, Owens racked up 1,200 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. His injury, suffered in a game against the Cowboys, was believed to have ended his season. But Owens shocked the football world by returning to play in Super Bowl 39, just 7 weeks after surgery. Despite playing with screws in his leg, he caught 9 passes for 122 yards and was arguably the best player on the field. Though the Eagles lost to the Patriots, Owens' performance was nothing short of heroic, and it cemented his status as a football legend. However, what could have been a long, successful partnership with McNabb and the Eagles soon unraveled. Owens' outspoken nature and comments about McNabb's leadership led to a major falling out. The situation became so toxic that the Eagles suspended him and eventually released him. It was another chapter in the complicated story of Terrell Owens, brilliant on the field, volatile off it. Yet even with all the controversy, Owens' career was far from over. After his rocky departure from Philadelphia, Terrell Owens signed with one of the most iconic franchises in sports, the Dallas Cowboys. It was a fitting move for a player who thrived in the spotlight. Owens joined the Cowboys in 2006, and despite questions about his locker room presence, he quickly became quarterback Tony Romo's favorite target. In his first season with Dallas, Owens caught 85 passes for 1,180 yards and led the NFL with 13 receiving touchdowns. His explosiveness and knack for big plays made him the centerpiece of the Cowboys' offense. But it wasn't just his production on the field that kept fans and media focused on T.O. It was his personality, his antics, and his emotions. In 2007, Owens had one of the best seasons of his career, recording 81 receptions for 1,355 yards and 15 touchdowns. The Cowboys went 13-3 that year, earning the top seed in the NFC playoffs. But the season ended in disappointment when they lost in the divisional round to the New York Giants. After the loss, Owens delivered one of the most memorable press conference moments in NFL history, tearfully defending Tony Romo, who had been criticized for a vacation trip before the game. Owens choked out the now-famous line, "That's my quarterback." It was a rare, vulnerable moment from a player often portrayed as brash and arrogant. Still, his time in Dallas was not without drama. Owens continued to have friction with teammates and coaches, and questions about his influence in the locker room never faded. In 2008, despite another productive season with over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, the Cowboys decided to part ways with Owens. At that point, T.O. was 35 years old, but he still had plenty left in the tank. He signed with the Buffalo Bills in 2009 on a 1-year deal. Though his numbers dipped, 55 catches for 829 yards and 5 touchdowns, he remained a deep threat and a dangerous presence on the field. Off the field, he embraced the community, even hosting his own reality TV show and staying active in Buffalo's social scene. In 2010, Owens signed with the Cincinnati Bengals and was paired with fellow wide receiver and showman Chad Ochocinco. The two were dubbed the dynamic duo and brought a combination of swagger and skill to the Bengals' offense. Owens had a resurgence, recording 983 yards and 9 touchdowns, proving once again that age had not dulled his abilities. But the Bengals struggled as a team, and 2010 would end up being Owens' final NFL season. Though he would pursue comebacks over the next several years, including brief stints with indoor football and semi-pro leagues, his NFL career was effectively over. Still, his numbers were extraordinary. By the time he left the league, Terrell Owens had amassed 1,078 receptions, 15,934 receiving yards, and 153 touchdowns, placing him in the top 3 all-time for receiving yards and touchdowns at the time of his retirement. His 6 Pro Bowl selections, 5 All-Pro nods, and countless highlight reel plays made him a no-brainer for the Hall of Fame, at least in terms of performance. But his road to Canton wouldn't be easy. Despite being eligible for induction in 2016, Owens was not selected as a first-ballot Hall of Famer. He wasn't even selected in 2017. Many believed his controversial off-field behavior, frequent team conflicts, and media image were held against him. Owens himself was vocal about the perceived injustice, calling out the Hall of Fame selection committee for what he viewed as a bias against his personality rather than his production. Finally, in 2018, on his third year of eligibility, Terrell Owens was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But in true T.O. fashion, he chose to skip the official induction ceremony in Canton, Ohio. Instead, he held his own private ceremony at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, his alma mater. There, he delivered a heartfelt speech thanking his family, coaches, and fans, and addressed the pain of being overlooked for 2 years. His decision to boycott the Hall of Fame ceremony was controversial but also consistent with the independent, defiant streak that defined his career. Owens said it wasn't about disrespecting the Hall, but about taking a stand for fairness and integrity. "I'm not a perfect man," he admitted in his speech, "but I'm a man of principle." After retirement, Owens remained in the public eye. He appeared on reality TV shows, competed in sports entertainment programs, and remained vocal on social media. He also stayed in incredible shape, even running a 4.4-second 40-yard dash well into his 40s. Rumors of an NFL comeback surfaced more than once, and he even publicly lobbied teams to give him another chance, insisting he could still contribute. Although a return to the NFL never materialized, Owens continued to train and inspire athletes with his work ethic and dedication to fitness. In addition to his sports legacy, Owens became an advocate for mental health and personal development. He opened up about his struggles with depression, trust, and the emotional toll of fame. In interviews and speeches, he spoke about the importance of communication, therapy, and surrounding yourself with people who truly care. It was a side of Owens that many hadn't seen, a more reflective, mature version of the player who once stood on the Dallas Star and taunted entire stadiums. Through it all, the story of Terrell Owens remains a complex, compelling one. He is a player who was never afraid to speak his mind, even when it cost him. A man who played with passion and heart, but whose intensity sometimes burned bridges. A competitor who worked relentlessly to perfect his craft, yet often found himself misunderstood by teammates, coaches, and the media. His legacy is equal parts brilliance and controversy. But above all, Terrell Owens is a symbol of what happens when talent meets tenacity, and when greatness refuses to be boxed in by public opinion. Whether you love him or hate him, there's no denying that T.O. left an indelible mark on the game of football.